remains committed to restoring peace and security across the country. While expressing sadness over recent attacks in some parts of the country, the president, in his Easter message to the nation, said, "I understand the pain and fear these incidents have caused. Let me assure you that my administration will restore peace and security remains unshakable. Forces of evil will never prevail over our country." End of quote. The president also said he has given clear directives to the armed forces and all relevant security agencies to end insecurity decisively and without delay. However, the reality is that this is not the first time presidents, governors, or ministers or government officials have spoken tough about insecurity in the country. So the question, therefore, is what will make President Bola Tinubu different from others, and can he fix this hydra-headed monster that has plagued our country for years now? Joining me tonight to speak more on these are two gentlemen, security consultant and public affairs analyst Opialu Fabian. He joins us from our Abuja studio. And later on the show, political affairs analyst and media aide to former Benue State Governor Teva Akase will join us virtually. Mr. Fabian, good evening to you. Thank you for joining us on Politics Tonight.
Thank you for having me.
So just like I said in my introduction, the president has now assured Nigerians that his administration remains committed to restoring peace and security across the country. Clearly, this is coming at the right time. But going by report from Benue, from Benue State, from Plateau, and other places in the last few weeks have indicated that Nigerians who live in these parts of the country can no longer sleep with their eyes closed because of this renewed insecurity. How significant is this message? Is it reassuring?
Thank you very much. Mr. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, in his capacity and position as a president, has done well at his own level because the budgetary provisions for security and defense is up. It's the highest at this level, 4-point-something trillion naira. That means the president on his own has done what he needs to do as the president to address the issues of insecurity. Because he would not have to carry the guns and helmet and go fighting insurgents. What he needs to do is to make budgetary provision for security, defense, and related matters. He has equally appointed ministers, service chiefs, police chiefs, and relevant security chiefs to man this department. What we are yet to see, or what we think has not been done enough, is the performance of these service chiefs, the performance of the Minister of Defense, and the performance of his accessories. I think the president's position is supposed to be what any president anywhere in the world would do.
All right, so let me continue in this Easter message. Mr. President again gave a broad mandate to the armed forces, again because this is not the first time. The president will be giving the armed forces this clear approval to deal with this. And this time in this Easter message, the president said he has given them clear directives to the armed forces and all relevant security agencies to end insecurity decisively and without delay. Because you've just talked about the service chiefs, you've talked about the Minister of Defense, how do you evaluate the current state of Nigeria's defense capabilities?
Thank you very much. You see, insecurity is not just the way we look at it from our own, maybe I will call it a superficial perspective. Insecurity is deeper than that. When we said we will give marching orders to the service chiefs, to the security agencies, to end this insecurity, it doesn't just end like that. It has a history. Insecurity has a history. It has a causative agent. It grows through a period of incubation. When insecurity matures, that is when ordinary people in the street will begin to feel it. We brew insecurity because of negligence. Who are these bandits? Who are these Boko Haram? Who are these people we give all nomenclatures to? They were the people we refused to educate 40, 50 years ago. Where are these people coming from? Are they ghosts? They are Nigerians. They are within our territory. And human beings in Nigeria live within either the states, local government, chiefdoms, emirates, and family levels. These people are not strangers. To come back to your question on assessing the performance of the service chiefs and the Minister of Defense, there is no bad army. There can only be a bad commander. The Nigerian army from 1960 to date have performed wonderfully well everywhere, anywhere, at every point in time they are assigned to do so. They performed very well in Congo in the early 60s. They performed very well in Sierra Leone in Liberia. They performed very well even before the advent of independence during the colonial era as a West African Frontier Force. They performed very well. In Cambodia, in Yugoslavia, Nigerian armed forces, police have always performed well. The same armed forces are still here. What is lacking is the leadership.
Okay.
Who is providing the leadership? What strategy is the Minister of Defense using to manage the security situation in Nigeria? Which is his mandate? To manage the armed forces. Policy formulation, funding, welfare, so community engagement. Yes.
So, Mr. Fabian, you've just insinuated that yes, Nigeria's architecture, security architecture, must be rejigged. Is that it?
Yes.
Okay.
One, the architecture of the security system has to be adjusted to suit the peculiarities. It's not that it is faulty, but we have peculiarities. The dynamics of the crisis we have here is not the conventional type. There is the contents of people in government not being sincere, especially with issues of security and insecurity. The president, as far as I am concerned, have done what any president who is committed to security of his people should do by making budgetary provision. In fact, for the very first time, we're having defense having the highest allocation in the 2025 budget.
Right.
Meaning the president is committed to security of the country.
And despite this commitment, I mean, sadly, every region in the country is experiencing insecurity. Lives have been lost every other day to all sorts of criminal and terrorist activity. I'm still speaking, Mr. Fabian. I said, sadly, every region in the country is experiencing insecurity. Lives have been lost every other day to all sorts of criminal and terrorist activities under different nomenclature. Bandits, terrorists, unknown gunmen, ethnic clashes, herders, farmers clash, kidnappers. These are those who have said, there are those who have said, perhaps it's time for us to embrace our reality, which is that Nigeria is at war with itself. And with that, the military would be able to face these terrorists hands-on. And this balancing act may be subdued. What's your take on that?
I think when you said Nigeria is at war, yes, because we have wars, rumors of wars, kidnapping, community attack everywhere. Yes, we are at war. Recently, generals, retired generals, former ministers of defense are calling for self-defense. People should make arrangements to protect themselves. It's a good idea. It's a good call. The risk is that when they finish protecting themselves, the arms that they are acquiring to protect themselves now will become weapons of another crisis in the future. So when the generals, the well-wishers, well-meaning Nigerians are telling their own people within their own constituencies to defend themselves, I look at it, say it's a good idea for now, but it's not sustainable. Sustainability
is it
means
even realistic, Mr. Fabian?
Without yes.
Mr. Fabian, is it realistic
that they can protect themselves?
Absolutely.
Yes. To a very large extent, it has been experimented in Nazare, in Tefa Balewa, when the community people repelled these bandits and they never came back. Yes, to a large extent, yes, the communities can protect themselves. But the context within which they are protecting themselves is not sustainable. They will solve the problem today and create another one tomorrow. By the time they solve the problem of protecting themselves today, acquiring arms, of course, illegally. Because the arms they acquire to protect themselves will go into wrong hands when they have finished protecting themselves. You know, the arms politicians acquire to win election by all means, at all cost, is what became the weapon of kidnappers and bandits. If you look at the value of one AK-47, the factory price is close to ₦1 billion, if not more than that now. And these people that are using these guns, these bandits, if you look at them, they can't afford 100,000 naira. That means somebody acquired this weapon, maybe for another purpose, and now it has fallen into their hand.
But Mr. Fabian, I mean, it gets more concerning and worrisome when you hear, I mean, just to put that statement into proper context, when you hear a former Minister of Defense, like General Theophilus Danjuma, restating his call on the people of Taraba State and other Nigerians in general to defend themselves against the invaders who are killing people in various communities across the country. Is that not a clear indication that government at all levels have failed?
And not really. You see, when you say government at all levels have failed, it speaks to the fact that government has done nothing. I think if a former Minister of Defense is calling for this self-help, it is a direct vote of no confidence on the current Minister of Defense, because he was in that office and he understands the dynamics of that office and he understands the roles, the expectations, the responsibilities of that office. So if a former Minister of Defense is calling for self-help, that means he has lost confidence in the current Minister of Defense. That is exactly what it means.
Okay. Also,
however, I want to reiterate.
Okay.
I want to reiterate that the Nigeria Armed Forces is capable, competent, resilient, and willing, but leadership. The Ministry of Defense is not providing the necessary leadership. I think that is the issue at stake. Because this Nigerian military, the Nigerian Armed Forces, have done it before. They have done it even outside this country where they don't even know the terrain. So if they can do it in Liberia, they can do it in Sierra Leone, they can do it in Cambodia, they can do it very well. So that means they can do it here. The only condition now is, I think, although Mr. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is not an armchair president, I know he is watching this pocket of voices and calls coming from the former ministers of defense, generals, and people of... he is not an armchair president. He has been governor, perfectly governed the state called Lagos. He's been a senator, and now a president. And incidentally, the vice president too is a former governor. Majority of the people in the principal officers of this government are, almost all of them are former governors. The Minister of Defense himself is a former governor. He has controlled security votes. Now that he is the Minister of Defense, I don't think he's doing enough.
All right.
And I think I know, but as far as I have seen the president in the last almost 2 years of his government, he's not an armchair president who sit down and wait for people to bring reports. Yes.
All right, Mr. Fabian. Now, let me bring in Mr. Teva Kase. He's the political affairs analyst, media aide to former Benue State Governor Samuel Otom. Are you there, Mr. Kase? Good evening to you. Good evening. So, right. Insecurity in Benue State is the biggest challenge the state has, aside being underdeveloped, despite having well-exposed governors. The truth is, this doesn't start with the administration of Governor Alia. It has been increasing spate of attacks since the last quarter of 2024. Some say the killings never stopped. It has just been underreported. But the last few months, the killings have continued unabated without proper intervention. And some days, it was yesterday, Governor Alia says Benue State is under siege. What exactly is happening?
Well, thank you very much for this question. Let me begin by sympathizing with victims of attacks in Nigeria, not just in Benue State. Other states are suffering the same fate. And we in Benue appear to be receiving the largest share of these atrocities. And so our hearts go to the victims. Our people, as we speak, many of them are missing. and it's quite unfortunate. But let me, before saying anything, commend Mr. President for speaking to Nigerians on this very important issue. The security of lives and property is what the Constitution of this country says governments at all levels must provide for Nigerians. And for Mr. President to speak to Nigerians on this very important issue, it means he's listening to the lamentations of his people. He inherited the security problem from the previous administration, and he is doing his best. We want to see more to be done, like my co-discussant has said. A lot more needs to be done to support our military, which is one of the best in the world, to do better. Now back to Benue State. At last, the government of Benue State is admitting that there are killings. When these things started, when the attacks and killings began, this government was in denial, constantly denying that the killings were not happening. And they were making references to the previous administration and even making a show of it, that in the previous administration, people were being killed in hundreds. But since they took over, there are no killings. And the people began to complain. And so perhaps the pressure on the present government of Benue State has become unbearable for them. So in the last couple of days, the governor and his team are beginning to admit, to say that really this state is under siege, which is what many people were saying from last year up to this year. Now, and that brings me to the appearance of the spokesman for the government last week on this program, when he made allegations against the previous administration that Governor Otom was, his government was impounding cows owned by herdsmen, by Fulani herdsmen, and that led to constant attacks on the people. And he accused the government of Otom of using the livestock guards, to impound animals, and even stole, according to him, the livestock guards would steal some of the animals. And when the herders come to pay fines and take their animals back, many will be missing. That statement was very unfortunate, and I wish that this government will retract that statement, because it's an insensitive statement, and it's a slap on the faces of the victims of attacks in Benue State. Now the question is, if you accuse the government of Otom of using livestock guards to cause attacks, as he put it, the livestock guards are no longer here. This government has phased out the livestock guards. They are no longer in operation. Remember that the Open Grazing Prohibition and Ranches Establishment Law of the state 2017 provides for the establishment of the livestock guards, which is the enforcement component of that legislation. This government, on assumption of office, suspended the livestock guards. No one sees them anymore. They are no longer in operation. And the attacks are even getting worse. So who is now responsible? If Otom was using livestock guards, who is now responsible for the attacks? You see, insecurity is something that people should not play politics with. But it's very unfortunate that the current government of Benue State kept denying.
All right, Mr. Akase, let me come in here. Because this is not the first time there would be a back and forth between the previous administration and this current administration, especially on the issue of security. But let's say on the issue, the National Security Advisor has promised to deploy more security assets in Benue State to arrest this renewed wave of attacks in the state. Is the state government doing enough to protect its people? Also, these reactions and counter-reactions, the governor had alleged that some politicians in Benue State are politicking insecurity. Some Benue stakeholders are also saying that instead of tackling these killings, the governor is overwhelmed and more interested in a battle for the control of the APC. So, like I said earlier, this is not the first time there would be these back and forth over insecurity. But my question to you is the state government doing enough?
Well, as to whether they are doing enough, that is yet to be seen, because they are only beginning to admit that there are attacks after all, which is what Benue people have been saying since last year, that they are being killed by Fulani herdsmen. But the government in place now was denying, kept denying. Now, the governor was in Sankara, which comprises Ukum, Logo, and Kasanala local governments some days ago. And there, for the first time, he said more than 50 people have been killed in twin attacks. Now, that is the starting point. For you to seek help, for you to receive help, for the presidency to realize that Benue is in trouble, the government of the state needs to tell the presidency, because the governor is the chief security officer of the state. So he needs to, first of all, admit that his state is under siege. If the national security advisor, if the armed forces, the service chiefs are not briefed by His Excellency the Governor of the state that his people are under siege, how can the president cannot be everywhere. So it is up to the government of this state to first of all admit that, which is what they have just done. And I think this is the first step. So now that they have admitted that there are attacks in Benue State, the next step is for them to bring stakeholders, which is what I think they're also doing. And that will now should move to engaging national stakeholders as well. The presidency, all the service chiefs, let them know that Benue is under siege. People are dying. People are being killed. 19 out of the 23 local governments of Benue are being occupied. Many local governments are occupied.
All right.
So the starting point is what they are doing now, and I expect that they should do more. Let Nigeria know that what happened. You know, remember that the Plateau State governor cried out, and President Tinubu immediately directed the service chiefs to make sure that Plateau is protected. That is what you do.
Gentlemen.
Because he is the commander-in-chief, you have to brief him that your state is under siege.
All right, gentlemen, let's go on a short break. Welcome back to Politics Tonight, everyone. Thank you very much for staying with us. Tonight we're discussing national security as President Tinubu assures Nigerians of commitment to restore peace and security across the country. My guest tonight, Opialu Fabian, security consultant, public affairs analyst. Also, Teva Kase is on the program with me. He's a political affairs analyst and media aide to former Benue State Governor Samuel Ortom. Mr. Fabian, let me continue with you, and let's look at Benue and Plateau State. For instance, because we have all agreed that the federal government cannot do it alone. What exactly would you say is happening with these states? Are the governors doing enough?
Yes. The crisis in Benue and Plateau are not new crises. There are so many components to this crisis. The Benue and Plateau people are agrarians. They are crop farmers. And the truth is that crop and animals do not cohabit. If you are a crop farmer and you have herders, it is always a very difficult boundary to draw between the farmers of animals and the farmers of crop. If this happens, there is likely 90% chances of conflict. And that is what has happened in these two states. But the government at this level of these two states have not done enough, because they are looking at the crisis or the problems from the surface level. These problems, like I say, all security issues, crises, and conflicts have a history. They have a latent period. A period where the two parties in this conflict have irreconcilably or incompatible differences in goals. That is when government should make provisions. So,
Mr. Fabian, I do apologize because we have emphasized so much on the fact that, okay, they're not doing enough. What exactly must they now do?
Good. We have an existing law in Benue, for instance, that spells out clearly how the animals and the crops should cohabit for the benefit of the state. For Plateau State, I do not know of the anti-grazing law of Plateau, but I think the governor in Plateau should understand that these people cannot cohabit, and also use the State Assembly to come up with a legislation to address these issues going forward. And then there should be a local security apparatus. You see, all conflicts are local, and only the locals can understand the terrain within which and the context within which these conflicts happen. Like I said, the attackers and the victims are within a community. If a strange person comes into any community, he must have an accomplice. There must be conspirators within the community that is being attacked. Or the people must have a prior knowledge of this community. And only perhaps the community people that can actually a time bomb.
Okay.
If you don't harness them under a government structure, they will acquire arms illegally. They will not be profiled. When the crises are over, these arms will become instrument of another crime. So I advise that each of the state governments should organize a security outfit where the members of this outfit are profiled, identified, documented, trained within the ambits of the law, and equipped as such.
Benue State I wanted to say Benue State has a state security outfit.
Yes, like as it was done in Benue, like my co-panelist just said, that agency has been disbanded or suspended, as the case may be. If it is suspended, when are they going to return? If it is disbanded, what is the replacement? I think I would advise that every state should have local security apparatus. While we are waiting for the state police to come in first into being, let us have a local security network.
All right.
Because security is local.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Fabian. Mr. Kase, let me come to you. Just as Mr. Fabian had alluded, did you say that the state security outfit has been disbanded?
That's what it is.
Because, you know, I had a conversation with the CPS on Friday, and what he says was that the state security outfit has been renamed to Ayama. So, I mean, if you're now saying that the state security outfit has been disbanded, I wonder what that means.
Well, I was specific that the open grazing prohibition and ranches establishment law of Benue State 2017 has a component, or had a component, because I don't know if that law is still in existence under this government. The law has a component, the enforcement component, called livestock guards. And the guards were trained to help the conventional security agencies in enforcing that law. Now, since this government came on board, the trucks that were given by the state government to the enforcement unit of the law have been converted to cargo trucks for the state-owned transport company since 2023. Oh. Now, you see, every law must have an enforcement. And you see, the presence of the existence of a law doesn't mean crime will end. And that's why every law has the punishment component of it. So it was in that regard that the government of Samuel Otom brought the livestock guards to enforce the open grazing prohibition law. Now, this government we don't see the livestock guards anymore. Their trucks have been converted to cargo purposes for the Benue Links, the state-owned transport company. And remember that the Otom administration launched 2 batches of the community volunteer guards in 2022. More than 2,000 of them. This government came and disbanded that. They brought their own security outfit. And on the day of the launch, they presented, they said they had 100 patrol vehicles for the new outfit. No one sees those vehicles moving the state. No one sees them. And the security outfits are nowhere to be found. You see, when Governor Otom established the volunteer guards of the state, he did this in collaboration with the traditional rulers of the state under the leadership of the chairman of the Benue State Traditional Council, who is the Totif, and all his chiefs. They did this also in collaboration with religious groups to pick well-trained young people from each community of the state, from each ward, and they formed the community volunteer guards. These people were trained by conventional security agencies, the military, the police, the DSS, and so on. And they were given light weapons. Now, they were helping security agencies, conventional security agencies, in combating this insecurity. Remember that at a point, cows were not seen in any part of Benue State roaming the street. Yes, we still had some pockets of attacks here and there.
Mr. Akase, we'll come back to that. We'll come back to that open grazing prohibition bill of 2017. But it's also interesting to hear you talk this way and try to put all of the blame on the current administration, because your principal, former Governor Samuel Otom, is one of those that have been criticized for playing politics with the killings in Benue State. Instead of joining hands with the current governor, despite party differences, the people, the lives of your brothers and sisters, the lives of the children should matter most in a situation such as this. Your principal had said in less than 2 years in office, Governor Alia's administration has overseen numerous mass burials, covered up alleged mass burials in the state to create this impression of peace under his administration. How do you react to that? To the fact that Governor Alia's statement that his predecessor had failed to curb in-season mass killings during his tenure and that he's currently dealing with a spillover?
Well, the earlier administration was, we were only reacting to what the earlier administration said. The governor was speaking at some church function somewhere, and he said, and I quote, that in the past administration, mass burials were conducted. And he even said a lot of attacks were reported during the Otom administration. So what we did, and I issued that statement on behalf of my principal,
yes, that
under his administration, mass burials have been done. In fact, his deputy attended one in Otukpo not too long ago. The difference between his administration and the Otom administration is that media reports are being suppressed now. Nigeria is not being told what is happening in Benue State because perhaps this government doesn't want the world, doesn't want the rest of the country to know that Benue people are being killed, so that they will brandish the moniker of doing very well in security. But the Otom administration wanted help from the federal government, so the governor then met Mr. President Buhari at that time and told him, Mr. President, sir, my people have problems. They are being killed. So I plead with you to send a full military operation. The president sent initially, it was Operation Cat Race, which was called Ayema Patuma, an exercise rather. And Governor Otom and his colleagues in Kogi and Nasarawa met again and said, we will request for a full military operation. And he led that, he championed that cause, and the then president approved a full military operation, which headquarters was here in Benue, called Operation Well Stroke. And that operation was fully funded, was supported by Governor Otom, and they did so well in combating insecurity here with the help of intelligence gathering by the community volunteer guards of Benue and other security and other forms of intelligence. So that is how I think it should be done. Government should not suppress information. When you suppress information about what is happening around the people, then you deprive them of help. Remember, I mentioned something that Mr. President Tinubu has directed that the security agency should move into Plateau to help the governor there. Okay. And he also told the governor to do his best.
All right.
That is because the governor raised the alarm that his people are being killed. But when you hide, when you suppress the information simply because you want to be seen to have done well in security, then you are exposing your people to more attacks, because the headers, the armed herdsmen, will be so happy that, oh, this government is happy, or rather this government doesn't want the world to know the truth.
All right, Mr. Castle, let me go back to Mr. Fabian. Thank you. You've made your points. Let me go back to Mr. Fabian. I want us to look at the Southwest and the peculiarity of terror attacks in places like Ekiti and Ondo states. Recently, Governor Seyi Makinde of Oyo State spoke out, going by what he said. These bandits are migrating from the northwest to Oyo State, and it looks like it's getting closer than we thought. The Southwest governors met recently. They have jointly agreed to set up a new joint security outfit to tackle new waves of insecurity in the region. In terms of operations and intelligence gathering, what must change?
I didn't get your last sentence very well.
So I said in terms of operations,
security,
and I want us to look at the Southwest. Yes. So in terms of operations and intelligence gathering, what must change?
Yes. You see, when we talk about security, there is no hard and fast rules about how to carry on security activities. The peculiarities of the challenges determine the strategies to use. That was why I spoke earlier and said the Minister of Defense have not done so well in strategy rearrangement. The best and the most effective way to secure any community, any country, any nation is through intelligence gathering. Because nothing happened impromptu. There must be some informations. And these informations are available to people. But what has been our problem has been the management, cultivation, recruitment, reward, and protection of the informant's personality. It has been a problem. That is why people do not volunteer information. These coordinated attacks, sometimes twin attacks, sometimes serial attacks, it does not go without people seeing them. It's just that the informants are not protected, their security, their confidentiality is not guaranteed. So when they see something, they don't say something. Well, we advise that when you see something, you say something. But when you see something and say something, you are exposed to danger. So many of the people will see something and will not say something. Back to the Southwest. The Southwest has done well. With the introduction of Amotekun, you can see that the spate of violence and attacks in Southwest reduced drastically, because the Amotekun was created out of the local people who knows their terrain. So the joint operation that the Southwest security apparatus is trying to put in place should increase their information or intelligence gathering network. That by so doing, it will reduce the labor of the operational forces. Okay. Because if you are informed about an incident, you will be able to strategize on how to repel it. The best way for security is prevention through intelligence gathering.
All right, Mr. Akase, let me come to you. And, you know, the report at that time was that the former president was not pleased with the bill. But to what extent would you just say the Open Grazing Prohibition Bill 2017, which, you know, just prescribed a 5-year jail term for a herder or pastoralist caught engaging in open grazing of animals in Benue State. That was in May 2017. To what extent would you say it would have addressed all sorts of violent attacks in Benue State?
To a very large extent, the law addressed the challenges. I said earlier that for quite some time, herders were not seen roaming the streets and the forests of Benue State. they had to relocate. The law did, the law cannot be against the constitution of the country, the law of a state. So the law took into cognizance the supremacy of the constitution. And that's why it didn't stop movement of the people. But the law said, if you want to move your animals, you have to do them by trucks. Now, the offenders, violators of that law, were also apprehended. More than 400 people, 400 violators, both headers, who came into the state, and even indigenous headers were arrested and tried. Some were jailed. More than 400 by the time Governor Otom was leaving office. So I also said that the existence of a law does not mean crime will end. There is no country in the world where crime has finished because laws exist. But that is why there is the punishment component. So to a very large extent, the open grazing prohibition and ranches establishment law of Benue State under Samuel Otom succeeded. And already farmers were being, given, those who wanted to go into animal husbandry were being given orientation on how to, you remember our people too have animals, pigs, cows, even cows, some have, and pigs, goats, and so on. So the law is not only about cows, the law is about animals. Now, those who violated the law were punished. So it is very important that the Benue State government, the current one, should take a look at that law. They have been saying they have amended the law.
So beyond Benue State, and because of our time, is it time for the federal government to ban open grazing?
Well, you see, agriculture is not on the exclusive list of administration in this country. It is on all the lists, which means the federal government, state and local governments can legislate on agriculture. Right. It is on the concurrent list. Now, that is why a state also has the power to legislate on agriculture. So animal husbandry falls under agriculture. So it is up to the states to look inwards. And that's why I think it is difficult for the federal government to ban open grazing, because states may come up with, and even local governments may come up with legislations that are peculiar to them. For instance, in Benue State, we are agrarian. We have crop farmers in larger numbers. In 95%.
All right.
99% of our people are into farming. So when you want to rear animals openly, certainly there is going to be a problem with the crop farmers. But let me correct an impression before we go. Let me correct this impression. There is nothing like farmers or farmer header clashes in Benue State. What is happening here is invasion, attacks, and killing of Benue people. And that is what Nigeria needs to know, because our farmers do not fight anybody. They are on their farms. People come in, people invade the farms and kill them because they want their animals to graze on those farms. So Mr. President should know that he is doing well. Benue people love him. He should remember that this state is bleeding. And when he's director, I know we have the SGF has been telling him this. I believe he'll be telling him. He has led Benue State before, and other sons of Benue who are there, even in the national Assembly.
Mr.
We are also adding our voice that Mr. President should know that Benue is bleeding. So he should remember Benue whenever he's directing security agencies to help states.
All right, well noted. Mr. Fabian, let me come to you. Nigeria is a country where you cannot stop anyone from migrating to other parts of the country. But how do you address the influx of these terrorists and bandits into the southwest? Is there really anything that can be done to control the boundaries for now, while we wait for the implementation of state police, community police, or forest rangers? Quickly, in 1 minute.
Yes, like I said, intelligence gathering is key. These strangers or these people you talk about do not come through the air. They come on land. They are human beings. They pass through communities. If the people at the boundary community see somebody and tell somebody, you are aware, you can repel them. But when people keep quiet, or people are compromised for maybe religion, for small money, small enticement, you will have problems certainly. So intelligence gathering is key. In security, no security apparatus, no security machinery, no equipment is as effective as intelligence gathering.
All right.
I want to add to what the co-panelists said.
All right.
The president of Nigeria,
Mr. Fabian, in 30
has
seconds,
done
please.
well.
We're out of time.
Yes.
In 30 seconds, please.
Yes. Mr. President has done very well by giving the highest budgetary allocation to security and defense.
All right.
The service chiefs and the military have done very well. They are still doing very well.
All right, then.
The Minister of Defense, in my view, have not done enough. And if I have to say this, it will be good, if not better, for the minister to thank Nigerians and thank the president
Mr.
for
Fabian.
the opportunity to serve.
All right, that would be the president's decision, not any one of us. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. I mean, the ultimate goal is to see that the president has now assured Nigerians of his commitment to restore peace and security across the country, and Nigerians are watching. Thank you so much for joining us. Opialu Fabian, security consultant, public affairs analyst, Teva Kase, political affairs analyst, media aide to former Benue State Governor Samuel Autumn. Thank you so much, gentlemen.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And thank you very much for watching. That marks the end.